There are 6 key mindsets that, should you build them, they will help you to be able to transform the way in which you deal with past, present, the future, handling challenges, and being able to solve problems more effectively. These are the 6 mindsets that will help you succeed in life. And this is all to come on this episode of the Changing Minds podcast. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Changing Minds podcast. My name is Owen Fitzpatrick, and in this particular episode, I'm going to talk you through 6 specific mindsets, all beginning with P, so it'll be easy for you to remember, which are designed to be able to help you to be much more successful in your life. We're going to talk about a number of different types of mindsets, such as the perspective mindset, the possibility mindset, the purpose mindset, the progress mindset, the presence mindset, and finally, the prioritization mindset. And with each one of these, I'm going to talk you through specific questions you can ask, as well as ways in which to leverage these mindsets to be able to set you up for success. So often we find ourselves dealing with or grappling with challenges. And these are challenges both we're dealing with in the current situation, period of our life, situations where we remember ourselves struggling or negative memories that we experience, as well as thinking about the future and feeling anxiety or worrying about various different permutations of what might occur in the next few days or weeks or months of our life. And what's really important is cultivating the right kinds of attitudes, ways of thinking about these situations. Now, in previous podcast episodes, we've talked about important elements such as the anti-fragile mindset, your ability to be able to improve as a result of the adversity that you face. And we also talked about the agency mindset, that is your ability to be able to focus on the things that you do have control over, or at least you can influence, and learning to accept and also have trust in the things that are outside of your control or locus of influence. But in this particular episode, I'm going to talk you through 6 more mindset shifts that by making them, they're going to help you to be more successful and happier in your overall life. We're going to start with the perspective mindset. And perspective mindset is, how can I see things differently than I'm seeing them right now? So whenever we deal with a situation, it's not so much just the situation itself, it's how we see that situation that affects the way in which we deal with it. So often we tell ourselves a story about that particular experience, and that's where the meaning comes. Now, the problem is that the meaning brings with it most of the negative emotions. So when an event happens, let's imagine you get rejected, or things don't go your way, or you have a setback or a letdown of some nature. Whenever that occurs, instantly you tell yourself a story about what that actually means. And the story itself can cultivate the negative kind of emotional response that you can have at that moment in time. Now, what's vital is to learn that this perspective mindset is helping you to overcome these problems by getting you to recognize that there is more ways to see this same situation, and hopefully helping you to tell yourself a different story, a more empowering story about whatever's going on. And so one question you can ask to be able to help you to cultivate this perspective mindset is to ask the question, what's a different way of thinking about this? What's a different way of thinking about this? What's a different story I can tell myself about this? And you can do this in a number of different ways. You can do the future perspective shift, where you go, what will I be thinking or feeling about this a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now? How will this look to me 5 years from now? When you ask questions like that, imagining yourself in the future, looking back at the current present problem that you're facing, often that will give you a distance, and it will help you to be able to change the story you're telling yourself about what's happened in the now. And therefore, you'll feel that reduction of stress, reduction of anxiety, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable and confident about the situation itself. Now, there's also perspective shifts, such as, how would somebody else deal with this? Or someone that you know that's maybe a high agency person, someone who you know always overcomes any sort of adversity they face. The kind of person that you know that whenever they're in a situation or in a bind, they'll say, I've got this, and they always do. One other question you can ask yourself to be able to help you shift perspectives is to imagine yourself in their shoes and say, how would this person deal with this? How would this person cope? How would this person handle the situation I'm facing right now? How would they overcome the particular challenges or adversity that I'm facing right now? And when you, once again, step into their perspective, it transforms the way in which you see the challenge that's right in front of you. And then the other perspective shift you can make, which is again part of this perspective mindset, is you ask yourself the question, how would I think about this if this all worked out well? If this had already been overcome, whatever challenge you're facing, if you'd already overcome it successfully and it worked out well, how would you be thinking and feeling about this particular experience right now? And when you ask these questions, when you ask the question, how will I be thinking about this a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? How would this particular person who's really great and successful, how would they think about this particular problem? Or how would I think about this problem if I'd already overcome it? These kind of perspective shifts help you to be able to change the way you think about the situation and tell yourself a new story, which empowers you to be a lot more successful as well. So some great suggestions there about how you can transform your perspective effectively. The second mindset that we want to be able to cultivate or build is what I call the possibility mindset. And this is really the mindset which allows you to imagine anything being possible. So many of the ways in which we limit ourselves involves us using a limiting belief or a limiting mindset of some nature. And so the beliefs that we have can often hold us back. The information we absorb can often be the very thing that prevents us from absorbing any more information. And so what's critical is that we develop the possibility mindset. So we're always focusing on how might this be possible? What are all the ways in which we might be able to figure this out? So often we can immediately jump to conclusions and assume something is not possible because it hasn't been done before, or is not possible because we've never done it before. But the reality is that everything that has been done successfully at one point, most people probably thought it wasn't possible to do. So many of the incredible innovations in our world happen because someone chose to go against the conventional belief that says this is not possible for us to do. And there's a million different examples. There's all pop culture examples from Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile. And there's lots of other situations where we overcome, as human beings, we overcome something that should have been impossible. And as a result of that, it can help us to be successful. Indeed, Benjamin Hardy, I think it is, in a number of books, he talks about this notion of building impossible goals. And the idea of having an impossible goal pushes you to really bring out the very best in you in many ways. And so the possibility mindset is asking the question, how might this be possible? It's really leveraging the question, what would happen if we were able to do this? And once again, you're not saying you definitely will per se, but you're saying, what would it look like if we were to do this? What if this was possible? And just by speculating, just by clearing your imagination to be able to imagine the what if, it allows you to begin to start to visualize it, which in turn gives you some sort of semblance or beginning piece of a belief. And that allows you then to be able to see things radically different as a result. So we've got the perspective mindset. We've got the possibility mindset. The third mindset is what I call the purpose mindset. And the purpose mindset is recognizing the importance of your purpose as a way of guiding you. Of course, we have Simon Sinek in his book, Start With Why, or based on his viral TED Talk, which was what great leaders do to inspire action. And he says, look, the key is you need to start from why. And he draws the 3 circles. The circle in the middle is why, the circle around it is how, and the circle around that is what. And he says, most people start with what they know and then how it works and then why it matters. But actually, you need to start with why it matters, then go to the how, and then go to the what. And so the notion of this start with why is similar to the purpose mindset in the sense of we need to be able to have something that drives us forward, that attracts us to move towards some end goal. And so the purpose mindset is recognizing that the purpose will guide you. So understanding what is my why, what is my purpose, what is my mission, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish, what is it that you want to achieve. When you start with your why, when you start with your purpose, what is your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish here? Then you can work backwards and that can help you to make the right kinds of decisions. Why do you want to achieve it? So it's not just about the goal itself, but what will the goal bring for you? What is it that you want to achieve the goal for? What is the ultimate aim of this? And when you look beyond the goal to the actual purpose, which is the why behind the goal, that's when you start to make real traction. And you want to understand that, well, why does it matter? And sometimes that means you ask the question why once. Sometimes you might ask yourself the question a couple of times. So I want to achieve X. Why? Because of why. Right. Well, why? Did you see that? Why? Why? Well, because of Z, right? So you might need to do it, but it comes to the point where you feel that is my ultimate purpose. That's the most important thing. And the beauty of purpose is the fuel that allows you to triumph over any kind of adversity. When you dig into the purpose and you start with, okay, this is what I want to achieve and this is why it matters so much, that why it matters so much is the very thing that will give you the requisite energy and motivation and drive to be able to handle whatever life throws your way. So you'll be able to accomplish it. And that's what the most successful startup founders or business leaders are able to do, is that they know why. They know why it's so important to them, and therefore they're willing to face whatever challenges or hurdles they might need to face in order to triumph, because they understand how incredible the purpose is. This is what I call the purpose mindset, understanding what is the why behind the particular goal that I'm setting for myself. What is my purpose? And allowing that to drive your actions from there on in. The next part is the progress mindset, and this is being able to trace the progress that you're making. This means finding your proofs of progress. So noticing what milestones you need to have accomplished in order for you to get closer to your goal. So it means you set your goal, you know exactly what is it that you want to accomplish, and then you start to figure out, where do I need to be in order for me to know I'm making progress towards this goal? So you identify the goal, you build the milestones along the way towards this goal, and then you make sure that you're tracking your progress. How much are we closer to where we ultimately set as the particular end goal, right? You have your deadline of the actual goal. Well, give yourself deadlines for each of the milestones so that you're making the right amount of progress towards what you want to achieve. But sometimes it might be a case where you don't have a specific goal. You still want to track the progress. So you might ask the question, how have we improved? Or what progress have we made? Or what proofs of progress have we made in, let's say, learning a particular skill? So if you've got a definable goal that you know you want to achieve, then you need to ask yourself, what proofs of progress are there to suggest that we're moving towards this goal? But if the goal is a little bit more abstract, or it's a skill you want to learn or something you want to develop, then you also want to be able to use this principle, and you want to be able to ask yourself, what progress have I made towards learning this or developing this? How much better am I than I was yesterday? When you start to ask these questions, then you'll start to notice yourself paying attention to this progress. And progress tends to make us feel more motivated. It triggers more dopamine in the brain, and it makes us feel like we are doing better. And as a result of that, that builds a bit more confidence, which means we're much more likely to succeed. So again, the progress mindset is particularly useful when it comes to locking onto particular goals or things that we want to get better at. And as we do so, as we notice how we're getting better, it trains us to go in the right direction. It's also a good antidote for the negative thoughts of comparing ourselves to other people or comparing ourselves to something that makes us feel bad. So when you notice the progress you're making, as opposed to the fact that you haven't achieved what you thought you should have achieved by now, it changes the direction of your brain, and it makes you a lot more likely to be more successful as a result as well. The fifth mindset is a particularly important one that we need now more than ever in the way we communicate, and it's what I call the presence mindset. And this means being 100% in the moment, asking yourself the question, what is going on right now? What is happening right now? What is going on in the moment? The more present you are with someone, the more they will experience that you're fully with them. And in a world where we're constantly distracted, most people are constantly on their phones, it'd be very easy for us to go through life and not feel very present very often. So it's vital that if you want to be able to create more of an impact with your communication, for you to be fully present in your one-to-one conversations, fully present when you're doing presentations, fully present when you're in being presented to, and fully present in the everyday situations that you find yourself in. So when you ask yourself the question, what is happening right now? Or what's new that I can notice? You're paying attention to whatever's new in your environment that you haven't noticed before, or something, once again, that you're noticing that is a little bit different to what you would expect. The more you train yourself to start to focus on this and just be in the moment, noticing exactly what's going on, the more you'll not only feel a lot more relaxed because you'll be in the present, as Eckhart Tolle would say, you'll be in the now, but also you'll find yourself being far better at communicating. You'll be a much better listener. You'll be much better at being able to ask the right kinds of questions because you'll know what questions to ask. But it's imperative that you're fully, totally, completely in the moment. And the way you do that is you ask yourself the question, what is going on right now? What's happening right now? So that you can completely immerse yourself from moment to moment in every single second that you have. And finally, the last mindset for today is what I call the prioritization mindset. And the prioritization mindset is the mindset you need to have where you ask yourself, what's most important now? What matters most now? Now, this might seem like a simple question. There's great books that have been written about this, such as The One Thing, a fantastic book out there, which talks about what is the one thing that you need to focus on. And if you were to focus on that, that would make such a big difference, et cetera, et cetera. But the prioritization mindset is asking the question, what is the most important thing? And not just what's the most important thing, because you've the most important things in your life, and then you've what's most important now. And so you want to be able to ask the question of what's most important in general and what's most important now. Because what's most important now might not be the same as what's most important in general, because maybe what's most important in general has already been taken care of. But what's most important now usually suggests some level of urgency that requires you to take specific certain kinds of actions. What's really critical is that you get into the habit of asking this question a lot, and you get used to understanding what isn't important as well. So sometimes you might be thinking through the answer to the question, what's most important now? And you might think, well, this and this and this and this and this. And there only really ever is one answer to the question, what's most important now? But sometimes to be able to eradicate some of the rest of the things that might mix with it, you might need to ask the question, what is not as important now? Or what isn't important now? And when you ask the questions, what is most important now? What isn't as important now? And what's not important now? Then you hopefully will start to cultivate answers from each. And that will then help you to prioritize more effectively. We all have like great prioritization tools like the Eisenhower Matrix, named after Dwight D. Eisenhower, the former president of the United States, because he once upon a time said there's certain things that are urgent, there's certain things that are important and not necessarily the same. But again, that implies there's a difference between importance and urgency, which indeed there is. But when you've got something that's important and urgent, they're the things that are important to do now. And then there's the things that are important, but not necessarily urgent. They're the things that are generally more important. But then there's the things that are urgent, but not necessarily important. And these possibly are the things where you don't necessarily have to do them, or they're not quite as important now. And then there's things that are not important, not urgent. And these are the things, once again, potential answers to the question, they're not important at all. Right? And so the more you ask these questions, the more you'll inadvertently be doing that kind of prioritization exercise, but in a much more sort of informal way. But as you go through life, if you can prioritize the most important thing on a more regular basis, it's going to transform how productive you are. It's going to make you a lot more effective, a lot more efficient. So putting together all these different elements, if we start to take it from the first mindset, which is the perspective mindset, this means being able to look at things from multiple perspectives. So imagining, what will this look like to me 2 years, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Also being able to look at it from another person's point of view. How would this person overcome this problem or challenge? And how would I think about this if it all worked out successfully? The possibility mindset, once again, asking how might this be possible? What if this was possible? What would happen if we were able to do this? The purpose mindset, where you're focusing on what is it I want to achieve and why does that matter? Allowing our purpose to guide us. The progress mindset, noticing what progress are we making towards this particular goal, or how much have we improved in this particular area? The presence mindset, which is really about focusing on what's happening right now, what can I pay attention to that is new right now? And then finally, the prioritization mindset, where you ask yourself the question, what's most important and what's most important now, and what's not quite as important and what's not important at all. The more you train yourself to ask these questions, the more you'll be cultivating these particular mindsets, these 6 P mindsets, which will help you to be able to transform the way in which you work, the way in which you think, and hopefully will make a significant improvement to the quality of your life. So that's all for me for now, but please do go out there into the world, use these 6 mindset, ask these questions of yourself, and the more you do, the more successful you'll be. For now, take care, be well. May the forces always be with you. I'll see you again sometime soon. Bye-bye.